Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about manifest destiny, right? So we're going to talk about why this doctrine in the 19th century is considered one of the most controversial political movements in the history of the US, from shaping the American identity to settling the West. We're going to talk about why this is considered such a controversial issue, right? So let's get started. All right, so we're going to start with a little bit of a background on this concept of the expansion west, right? So from the beginning, it was very clear in the American identity that we always wanted to settle west, right? And I'm talking about from the colonial era, from the time of Jamestown and Plymouth, all the way to the American Revolution. The idea that we were not allowed to continue expanding west is one of the main reasons for the American Revolution, right? From the beginning, the mentality of America is always expansion, right? It was always the idea of America has land, the one thing that Europe doesn't have, right? So when people came to America, most of the people were looking for land, right? So the idea of expansion west was always very ingrained in the American mentality, right? So here you can see a little bit of the westward expansion map, from the original 13 colonies to the land that we got at the Treaty of Paris, the Louisiana Purchase, the Adams-Honest Treaty, and then something happens, guys, right, in the 1820s. What is this thing that happened, guys, right? By the early 1820s, we're not an American experiment anymore, right? So what do I mean by this? If you remember from past lectures that I talk about the American experiment, okay, a lot of the things that happen in the early 1800s is that the US is this brand new nation with new ideas, but nobody knows if it's going to succeed, right? We know today and we kind of assume that we're always going to succeed, but at the time, a lot of people didn't know that we're going to be successful, right? So by the early 1820s, we're a successful young nation, right? So the idea of expanding west is at its peak, right? Way, way more popular than ever before. Okay, so uh, this is where we have this idea of manifest destiny. So what does it mean, guys? Right? Manifest destiny means that the United States was destined by God to expand its territory, from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, right? This concept was used to justify the westward expansion and the United States, guys, right? So this concept of manifest destiny argues that expansion was not only inevitable, but is also divinely ordained, right? It also advocates for the idea of Americans had a special mission to spread its values and institutions, right? So the question is, where do we get this notion, right? Where do we get this notion that, we are this grand, larger than life thing, this, divinely ordained nation, right? The answer is this, guys, right? And I guess the best way for me to explain to you is by showing this very famous painting, which is called American Progress, right? So American Progress is a painting by a gentleman named John Gast. Okay, so what you see here, guys, I always ask students to do this, right? Take a look at this painting, right? This painting very much reflects the concept of manifest destiny. Okay, so pause the video if you have a chance, and just look at the imagery and look at what do you see and what do you notice, right? So one of the things that you're going to notice is on the right side of the picture is lighter, and you start seeing the new technological advancements, right? So you see, for example, the railroad, you see the telegraph, you see canals, steamboats, is light, you see carriages, you see farmers using the new technology like the reaper, like the plow, to clearing up the land. On the other side of the painting, you see a darker side, you see buffalo, you see Indians, you see wilderness. The idea of American progress, guys, is that we are divinely ordained to these things because we make things better. That is the concept of manifest destiny, right? The idea is wherever we go, we bring our values, we bring our democracy, we bring our institutions, technology, all these things that we've making in the 1820s, we make things better, right? So we're using it to justify it for the expansion west. In other words, guys, right? When people see Indians in the 1820s, 30s, all the way to the 1890s, right? They basically see them as they're in the way of progress, right? They're still living this what is considered at the time this outdated way of life in which there's still hunter gatherers hunting for buffalo, living in teepees, some of them, right? So the idea is they are in the way of progress. So manifest destiny basically justifies the displacement of Indians because they're in the way of progress, right? Manifest destiny will justify our war with Mexico. Why? Because they're in the way of progress, right? What does this mean? It means that what is Mexico going to do with that land, right? We're going to do it better, right? So it's justifiable to go declare war in Mexico, to provoke that war with Mexico, right? It is justifiable to displace Indians because we're making things better. Whether you think we're making it better or not, it doesn't matter. This is the mentality of the time. This is what people thought at the time. We are making it better by, bringing these things, right? And this lady over here in the picture, this is I guess the human representation of America. It's called Colombia. So she's basically, and when I mean America, I mean the American continent, right? So this is the representation of where she's bringing all these things with progress, with all this new settlement, right? So what are the outcomes of manifest destiny, right? Manifest destiny significantly expanded the size of the US. It's going to facilitate its growth as a continental power, and it's definitely going to promote the spread of American institutions and values, guys, right? Something that we're going to see in the map that I showed you earlier, right? It's going to annex Texas, right? James Polk is a super manifest destiny president who will by all means annex Texas, who by all means will provoke a war with Mexico and get this Southwest territory, who will promote the idea of getting the Oregon country, so the expansion west, right? And with the expansion west, the idea is not only are we expanding, but we're bringing our values, we're making it better than what they're doing, than whoever is at the time is doing, right? So displacing Indians, justified. War with Mexico, justified. Why? Because we make it better. That is the mentality of the time. Okay, now what are some of the negative outcomes of manifest destiny? Justified a war with Mexico. A lot of people died in this war because we think that we are doing it for the benefit of the land, of the people. We make it better, right? It's going to lead to the displacement of the indigenous populations, right? Why? Because we feel that Indians are in the way of progress, right? And it's also, I guess you can't see it because my screen is there, but it's also going to increase the issue of slavery. Why? Because whenever we keep on expanding west, the question continues. Is slavery going to be allowed in these new territories? Right? So it has some positive aspects for Americans at the time. It also has a lot of negative aspects for people who are not Americans at the time, right? And most importantly, guys, we need to think about, what is the lasting effect of all this, right? There is this idea of the manifest destiny shaped the American identity, right? It's called the Turner thesis, right? Turner argued that this American frontier was the most significant factor in shaping the American democracy, society, and culture, because this act of moving westward and settling new territories always encouraged individualism, democracy, economic innovation. It always had Americans with this idea of more, 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 more. All right. So this idea of always wanting to, what is the new challenge, conquest of the West in the early 1900s is going to lead to what we call American imperialism, meaning we conquer the West. Now what is next, right? And Turner argued that that is because that's the way we do things, right? We always strive for what is next, right? Manifest Destiny shaped the mentality of the Americans, all right? So this is a brief overview of Manifest Destiny. These are the most important issues, and I don't want to take much more of your time. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys around. Okay, see you.